Hi everyone. Today I am going to talk about mothers, money, and self-worth and the patriarchy and why the relationship between mothers and money is just so complicated and completely fucked up. My name is Alexandra Hughes. I am a life coach for mothers who are purpose-driven and want to make a change in the world outside their homes while also being present inside their homes. And welcome to my Let's Talk Tuesday video series. So my notes are over here. I am so excited to talk about this very juicy topic, and it actually amazes me that I haven't talked about it before, because I talk about motherhood and self-worth a lot. But you know what? Money and motherhood and self-worth in the context of the patriarchy are a little bit taboo. Hey, Melissa. Are a little bit taboo, or a lot taboo, and it's been the elephant in the room for a really long time. But not anymore, because today we are going to start the conversation, and I'm so excited to do that. We are going to talk about I'm going to tell you a story that broke my heart, and then we're going to talk about, I think I announced that I had 3 talking points, but since then I've been working on the presentation, and I actually have 4 talking points. So I have 4 key lessons that I want you to take away today. And then I'm going to talk about what we need to do to change this as individuals and how we can support each other in our communities, in our friendship groups, in order to do that. So let me begin with the story. So a few years ago, and this is a story, I'm just going to adjust the camera. This happens to me all the time, but this one stuck out in my mind for various reasons. So sometimes when I have spaces open for my private clients, I offer what I call discovery calls, where, you know, someone is interested in coaching, and I'm interested in coaching them. We have a good connection, or we come together and we want to, you know, maybe test that connection out. They want to test coaching, or, you know, they're curious about it. And so we have like a 45-minute complimentary coaching call. And this is what happened with this particular woman. And we had a fabulous session. It was very clear that she would benefit highly from ongoing coaching. She knew it. She was excited. And she said what so many of these women say at the end of the call. You know, she said, so how much is it? And I told her how much it was and what it looked like and how it would work and when we would meet and that sort of thing. And she said, okay, you know, she was really excited. And she said, I'm going to go talk to my husband. He's the FEO. This is actually the first time I'd heard this term used within the context of a family. He's my FEO, my financial executive officer, or he's the family's FEO. And I said, okay, go and talk to your husband and come back to me. And so she came back to me a few days later, and she said, well, you know, I told you my husband's the FEO, and he had a look at his accounts, and we just can't cut it. We just, you know, there just isn't room in the budget for this. And I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. You know, we had such a great connection, and we identified some really important goals, and I feel like you would have come so far. You know, this wasn't a sales pitch. So I really thought this woman is gonna go far. Like, we are gonna make things happen together. And she said, I know. It's just that, you know, I'm not working right now. And so really he's holding the purse strings, and he has to make this decision, and I have to get his okay. And I thought, okay, well, you know, this sort of thing, it happened to me. I'd heard this so many times before, and it wasn't the first, and it won't be the last time that I've heard that. Coming from women who really could have reached, you know, their potential and created these incredible lives of fulfillment by investing in themselves in this way. And so we remained friends. You know, we remained in touch, and eventually she left DC, and it just never came to be that we coached together. Her husband, I think maybe the reason that it stands out to me is because they made good money. They had a big house in Bethesda. They had, 2 fancy cars. when I met her, she was, very well dressed, like name brand clothing. And I knew what her husband did, and I knew what she had done until she chose to take time off. And subsequently, I found out what she was doing. They were both making, six-figure incomes. And so what stood out to me there was that it wasn't really about the money. It was about how they chose to spend the money, or how he valued expenditure and how she went along with that. Because at that point in time, she wasn't making money. So I just want you to hold on to that story. And I'm going to be, there are going to be points in the conversation. And just to say, if you have any questions along the way, you need to type them into the comment box. And let me just see here if I can access that from here. Type them into the comment box, and I'll make sure that I respond to them as we go through, or if not, at the end. So we are going to go way back to the very beginning of exchange and trade, and I'm going to share with you, yes, Jess, it's all about the priority and the value, exactly. So we're going to go back in time. This is my first teaching point. This is the first, if you have pen and paper, write this down. Money is really a transaction of your energy. So either a service that you provide, or something that you create, or something that you contribute to the creation or the production of something. So since the beginning of time, since bartering, money basically replaces the bartered exchange. And so what I want us to do now is to examine how we use our energy as mothers, as unpaid mothers for the unpaid work that we do, and as paid mothers for the work that we do. It doesn't matter whether you're paid or you're not paid. This exercise is about examining where your energy goes. And so, in the interest of time, I'm just going to give you maybe 10 to 20 seconds to do this exercise. And if you don't have a pen and paper, no big deal. Do it in your head. I want you to think about, since you woke up this morning, how have you spent your energy? What have you done today? And, if I think of myself, okay, so I have this fantastic self-care routine in the morning, but before that happens, I wake the children up, help to get one of them dressed, make sure breakfast is on the table, encourage toothbrushing to happen, make sure that the book bag is ready, usher them out the door, try to keep my husband calm, and then he goes out the door. And that's sort of 8 things that I could list in probably 15 seconds that I do, none of which is paid for, and most of which is invisible. And so I want you to think about everything that you do, every single drop of energy that you use, and I want you to write it down or list it down. Why do I want you to do this? I want you to really celebrate that what we do is something. We have been so brainwashed to believe that a lot of what we do is actually not important, to the point where it actually feels invisible, right? And that, I'm just talking about what happened in the first, half an hour of my day. But if you think about the way you've contributed to society since you started birthing or adopting and raising children, I want you, if we think about that, you have actually, if it's a biological baby, you've held that baby inside your body. You've fed that baby. You've nurtured this future citizen of the world. And then you've birthed that baby, which is no easy feat. Nobody paid you to do that. In fact, you probably paid to do that, depending on where you are, if you don't get free health care, right? It's crazy. It's so fucked up. And so you birth a baby, and then you nurture that baby, and you take care of that baby. You're creating a citizen for your community, for your society, for the world, for free. And you're not compensated in any way for that. And I remember, I wrote this down in my notes because I really wanted to share it with you. I remember when we first moved to the UK, so we had adopted Mia, my eldest, and I'd given birth to my first boy, so I had a toddler and a newborn, and we were there. And I remember my husband was the main breadwinner, and so I was at home, like, kind of make sure. And I remember he'd come home at the end of the day, and he'd be like, "So how was your day? What did you do?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." It was such a sort of down feeling, like, why? Don't ask me that. I can't even tell you. Did I have a shower? I don't even think I got a shower in there. I breastfed. Like, I can tell you I breastfed. But there's no, or I cuddled, or I tried to put to sleep, or I calmed a child. I nurtured. What did I do all day? There were no boxes to tick. And the work felt invisible. And I bought this book. I'm going to grab it for you, because if you have little people and you ever wonder what you do all day, this is the book for you. It saved my sanity. It's called What Mothers Do. It's a UK publication. What Mothers Do, Especially When It Looks Like Nothing, by Naomi Stadlin. It's brilliant. If you have any mom friends who are about to have babies, or you have little babies and you worry that you're not, doing anything all day, get this book. Notice all the little, this is a well-read book, and it got me through those days, where I felt like I was doing nothing. And it's not that I was doing nothing, it's that nobody had ever made that work visible for me. Nobody had ever named it, and nobody had ever valued it. So here's the point. Even though it sometimes feels like you're not doing things, you're not checking things off your list, you are not sitting around picking your nose. You are not being lazy. Yes, get the book, Tanya. Get the book. It's so awesome. Naomi Stadlin, What Mothers Do, Especially When It Looks Like Nothing. So you are creating life, and you are nurturing life, and you are holding or managing the space in which life can flourish. And it's a fucking favor to society that we do this, and we don't even get compensated for it in any way, right? So I want you to hold on. That's my point number one, okay? Here's point number two. I get really feisty in these videos, but here's point number two. Point number two is that, and I have of course alluded to this, is that the value of certain things in our society, let me just read this, make sure I don't forget anything. Okay, let's call the society we live in the capitalist patriarchy, just for simplicity's sake. And like I said, a lot of the work, yeah, exactly, Jess, fires me up. A lot of the work that happens in this system that we live in, a lot of the, is invisible, like the stuff that women do, or this is established, the stuff that mothers do. It's invisible, and it's not remunerated, and it's not valued. So much so that we ask ourselves what we do. Hence, people have to write books like this, What Mothers Do, right? However, there is a lot of stuff that is valued. If you're a banker or a broker, or you exchange money, or you are involved in the production of a particular good, the stuff that happens outside family walls, the stuff that happens like in the kind of male-dominated working space. All of that stuff, that is remunerated, that is valued, that is visible, and that is celebrated, okay? So when we say to ourselves, wait a minute, I feel like I'm jumping the gun here. Right. So when we say to ourselves, this is linked to the fact that when we say to ourselves, I am going to, buy a pair of shoes, or I am going to I don't know, pay for private school for my kid, or I am going to, buy something material. This is easier for us to justify because it's something that is valued externally. When we say to ourselves, I'm going to go on that yoga retreat because it makes me do all that invisible stuff that I do better, or because it makes me feel good inside and healthy, it's different, and we give it less value than the professional development work that we might be offered as a paid working parent, or that our partners who are paid employees somewhere are offered as part of their benefits package, right? So because of the different weight that we place on where our energy goes, we make choices according to that. So basically what I'm trying to say here in my point number 2 is that the value system defined by the capitalist patriarchy is one that we internalize in the choices that we make around expenditures. Does that make sense? Can you give me like a thumbs up if you get what I'm saying here? I'm going to try and rephrase it. So we live in a system. The system tells us what is most important, and then we internalize that value system and we spend accordingly. So it's justified to spend on a thing that is produced on the market versus on an experience that makes us feel better as a mother or as a woman, or as just a human being, right? Okay, so I'm getting a comment here and I want to read it. Jess. Okay, makes sense. Great, Leandra. All right. It even translates to us assigning and receiving less value in those working places too. I see it every day with mamapreneurs. That's right. Like, what about the pricing of our services, right? Or the fact that we accept less of a salary. All of that, we could go on about this all day, but your is now at 20%. That's okay. So let's just take a deeper dive into the value system, because I want to talk about materialist consumption just for a second. You can see I'm such a total radical. Okay, so here's the messaging that we get. In addition to the labor that we do being invisible and non-remunerated, not compensated, and undervalued, we also are told that we're not smart enough, beautiful enough, thin enough. And I have to say that men probably get similar messaging, because this kind of indoctrination is what fuels consumption, right? If you don't have this car, you aren't successful. If you don't own your house, you're not successful. If you don't wear these designer jeans, then you're not really successful. So there are all these status symbols around us. If you don't use this face cream, then you're going to look old and crumply, and then you're not really going to look like a beautiful woman. And being a beautiful woman is, it's the most important thing to be when you're a woman. So there's all this kind of messaging that we receive that tell us that we need to buy more. And that's what fuels the economy, because there's this sense of worthlessness, like worth space lessness. And I think that it does, I haven't touched on this, but I would say that especially the beauty industry really, really, really kind of nails this into us very early on as girls and as, young teenagers and women. So that we start to kind of consume. And this is why we spend $100 on a cream, and I've done this before, $100 on a face cream instead of $100 on a therapy session, or like 2 massages, or put that money aside to go visit your best friend, which is really gonna nurture your soul, right? No, we're gonna get the face cream, or we're gonna get the fancy designer shoes. So again, this kind of materialist culture that we live in and that we have internalized through our spending patterns has also not allowed us, or it's not that it doesn't allow us, but it limits us from really investing in our living full capacity, right? Okay, so we've been told that successful people own their own house, house, have nice cars, latest TV, latest iPhone, fancy shoes, designer bags, blah, blah, blah. Their kids dress a certain way. And unless you don't have enough, then you're a failure. So I think it's really important that we understand that this is part of the context. And this is also why when somebody comes to me and says, you know, I can't afford coaching, or let's say I already have a client and they say to me, well, I really want to, I really want to go on the yoga retreat, but it's just, I just don't think I'm going to make it happen. The dates aren't right. We don't have that money in the account. No. I say to them, go back to your budget. And I say this to you too. Go to your budget and you look at that budget and you see, after you do some really long meditation and you get really clear on what your values are in this life, and see if that budget is in alignment with what is most important to you. I have a dear friend who had a fancy schmancy house and fancy schmancy cars, and she decided one day that she wanted less expenditures, and they sold the house and they rented a tiny little place in a really sweet neighborhood, and they're still renting. Their expenditures have dropped, and they're just using the money that they had to enjoy life more. More holidays, more dinners out, more evenings out, more breaks. And so that felt like an alignment. But were they questioned? Was there loads of self-doubt? Did people say, what the hell are you doing? That was an amazing kick-ass house. Of course they did, because it was counter-cultural. But they made that choice. Now, all of this, requires some work. So you really need to kind of get in touch with what your values are and what your body is telling you your values are. So it's very easy to work from up here and to say, okay, well, I value this and this and this. But what I want you to do is to really come into your body when you're defining your values in order to identify what's the stuff, because I believe that your body and your feelings are your compass. And so I'm looking, I wish I could turn the camera around, but there's a little monkey crawling on the electric wire outside my house. Oh, they're so cute. I'll try and get a photo of them, put them in an Instagram post. They're so sweet. Anyway, I digress, but whenever they come by, they always distract me. I live in Brazil. For any newbies out there who don't know that, we're posted in Brazil right now. So anyway, monkeys aside. Yes, so here's the thing. So the values need to be like embodied values. They need to be guided not only by the brain and the rational mind, which is celebrated in this patriarchal system, but also by your heart and your gut. And so there needs to be like an open connection between the two when you decide what is most important to you. So it's important for you to really do this, meditate, get into yoga, get into your activate your parasympathetic nervous system, relax. And that it's from that place when you determine what your values are, and it's from that place where you have a look at your budget and you see if your budget is in alignment with that. Now, this brings me to the ever juicy topic of partnership. Because even if that woman that I talked about at the very beginning, who had to consult with her husband, who was also the family's financial executive officer, if she had, disagreed with him and not just said, yeah, well, that's, you're the one that makes the money decisions and I'm going to kind of, just bow down to whatever you feel is best. If she hadn't done that, then there would have been conflict, and maybe she would have been like, you know what, honey, the coaching is super important to me. I'm going to go for it. But she didn't. It was, and I'm not saying that she's disempowered in the context of relationship, but she chose to give him the responsibility of being financial executive officer in the family, and she chose not to take it on herself. And in some cases, it works that way, and in some cases, that it's easier that way. I can say that for many, 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 many years, until I would say last year, maybe, or the year before. We've been together 20 years, my husband and I. When I decided, actually, I think I want to kind of be involved in financial management. It's crazy. Like, what are we thinking? Anyway, sometimes it works. Sometimes it works because we don't want to be involved in it because it feels easier, and especially works if you're already overwhelmed with other stuff, and I totally, totally get it. But I also feel like if we are going to take ownership of our lives and you know, feel free enough and worthy enough to make choices around how we spend our money in a way that is aligned with what we value, then we need to be involved in the financial management. So that's when the question around like who holds the purse strings comes up and how accounts are balanced. Now, I don't know, Crystal, if you're here, Sarah, I know also that you had a question about this. So one thing, what Crystal was saying was that, you know, we have joint accounts. So both salaries go into the joint account, and then a certain amount goes into, from the joint account into like family expenditures. I think, I'm not sure, Crystal, if I'm getting that right. I know if you're not here, you're probably going to watch the recording. So, and that makes you feel good because you feel like you're contributing. And as a contributor, you then feel that you can invest in yourself. That's what I understood from the post that you popped into the Facebook group. Now, Sarah said something different. She appreciated that the salaries went into separate accounts because their values and the way they chose to spend money were different. So what I need to say here, and I'm not a financial advisor, like at all, this is a learning journey for me. What I need to say here is what you need to do is have a conversation with yourself about what was going to make you feel best, one. And then, so once you're clear with yourself on what is going to be a reflection of your self-worth in the way you manage money as a partnership, then you need to have that conversation with your partner, explain what your needs are, where you're coming from, even say, you know what, as a woman, I've never been taught how to manage money, and it's something that I really don't want you to bear the burden of completely, and that I want to actually feel empowered with. So can we have a conversation about this? And like, you know, where is the money? How much money is there? These are questions that I was asking my husband last year. Where is it? How much is there? What are our savings goals? These kinds of conversations. Irrespective of whether you're paid for work that you do outside of family life, or you are a stay-at-home, you know, an unpaid working mom, a stay-at-home working mom. Irrespective of that, it's important that you recognize that you are a contributor. Your energy is going into maintaining that family. And if your energy is going into maintaining that family, then you have a right and you are worth, you deserve spending on yourself. And you are smart enough and worthy enough to know what a wise expenditure on yourself looks like. If, you know, you feel like it's therapy that's going to get you through these difficult years when the kids are little, then that's what it is. And it means that things in other buckets, in other pots, need to shift out of those pots and go into what's important for you, because you're a primary contributor, even if you aren't paid for it. Even if the patriarchal capitalist system does not value what you do, does not remunerate what you do, you value what you do. I value what you do. We value what you do. These women who are now restructuring what society looks like value what you do, and you need to reflect that in the actions and choices that you make around how you spend your money. So there's that. What else? Am I missing anything? Yeah. So how we manage money. So all of this kind of boils down, like let's bring it right down to the micro level around like how we manage money at home, how decisions are made. All of that is really critical. And sometimes it's going to invite an uncomfortable conversation, right? But what's really important, I think, is to talk about this elephant in the room with our partners and to trust that they love us, right? They love us and they want us to be happy, right? And so in order for us to be happy, it might look like 2,000 therapy sessions. Hello, you know, that's me. In order for us to be happy, it might look like a weekly yoga class. In order for us to be happy, it might look like setting a budget aside so you can visit your sister once a year, twice a year, you know, and where can that money come from? So these kinds of conversations that really, a lot of the time we're just scared to initiate these conversations because we somewhere deep down inside, so really connect to that feeling. Okay, I have some really cool, let me see what this is. Okay, so Jess is saying, love the reframe. We are primary contributors regardless of how much money we earn. We are. Who would feed the kids? Like, who would hold them kind of emotionally and psychologically? Who would drive them every fucking activity? You know, who would do that? Like, I just, you know, why do we think we aren't doing anything? Why do we think we aren't worthy of the stuff that lifts us up? It's because we're internalizing the devaluation of women and mothers' labors. We've internalized, and so we really have to do these like constant mind checks. And I'm going to give you some exercises to do at the end of the video. Okay, Melissa says, I was just thought in my mind, but I don't contribute financially. Don't understand the beginning of that, but it doesn't matter, Melissa, that you, and you know this. I mean, you know this. It doesn't matter that you don't contribute financially. You are a huge contributor. Leandra says, well said, Alexandra, our energy just contribute to the home working outside. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know what else is that we are going to, here, this is really important too, and it's not part of my talking points, I'm digressing as usual, but this is really important too. When we invest in ourselves, and this is, yeah, exactly, quote of the day, we've internalized the devaluation of mother's labor. Yes, we have. So when we invest in ourselves, we are doing everybody a favor. We are doing a favor to our children because they see empowered women investing in themselves, and that is a really important thing for them to see because we want them as girls to invest in themselves, and we want our, you know, if they're heterosexual boys, for them to support the investment in themselves, and maybe for them to invest in themselves as well in non-materialistic ways, okay? So that's one really important piece of the puzzle. Second of all, if we invest in ourselves, then we are growing as individuals and we will become better contributors to society at large. And let's face it, we need a little bit of healthy leadership around here. So please invest in yourself so that you can then contribute to positive social change, whether it be in your home, in your community, in your professional spheres, you know, whatever. I really feel like investing in ourselves is something we have denied ourselves and denied the world. We all need, and I don't know if I said this I know I wrote it somewhere, but we need full capacity moms. We don't need like burnt out, exhausted, overwhelmed, stressed out, pissed off, frustrated moms. We need full capacity moms who feel empowered enough to invest in themselves because they know that they're contributing huge amounts to society, even if they're just a mom, right? Huge amounts of invisible labor, okay? So, that's my soapbox. So, all right, so here's what I want you to do. Oh, I promised that I was going to share my story, and I'll do it very, very quickly. I never know if people are interested in my story or not, but I'll just tell you very, very quickly. A couple years ago, I decided to invest in myself in a really big way. Like, we're talking a $10,000 investment in myself and in my business. And this is something that felt very uncomfortable to me. It involved coaching, it involved like a retreat, it involved kind of sisterhood of entrepreneurs, and I was terrified. You know, I was terrified. Would there be a high return on investment? Wouldn't there be a high? It was really, really scary. And the questions around, am I worth it? You know, like, am I going to be able to pay the money back? How much, you know, does this make sense in my brain? But my heart guided the way, as it often irrationally does, and I went for it. And I have to say, if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't be here talking to you about the super important stuff. And I know this is also true for the women that I work with and the women around me. The women who feel more fulfilled, who are the bigger contributors, who are able to be more present with their children, they're the ones who invest in themselves. Anyway, so I mean, that's not really my story, but the story is, for a long time I didn't invest in myself, and I was questioning, you know, should I get a coach? Shouldn't I get a coach? Should I go to the yoga retreat? Should I not go to the yoga retreat? Well, it's $300. Oh my God, no. And then something shifted inside of me, and and there's a book that I read that made a big difference that I don't have in this room with me, but I'm going to put it in the comments below. So make sure you look at the comments below. I think it's called Worthy. And it made a remarkable difference in my life. I read that 2 years ago. And it took me a really long time to go through because there were a lot of blocks in there, you know, inside of me that it was kind of working through. And 10% battery. Eventually, I got to a place where I felt it was scary, but good enough, and I went for it. And I haven't looked back. Like, I'm a different person as a consequence of the investment that I made in myself. And that's what I want you to know. Even if you're just taking baby steps around investing in yourself, or maybe they're huge steps. If your heart is calling, then find a way to make it happen, because it's gonna rock your world. It's gonna take you to a different level. So here's what I want you to do. The first thing that I invited you to do is to write down everything you do every day. Write down how your energy is spent every single day. And then I want you to celebrate that. And I want you to really tune in with how much of that is actually aligned with your values, and B, not only aligned with your values, but invisible labor. Because a lot of the time, what we think is most important is actually invisible labor. You know, like for instance, when my babies were super little, and I felt like I was breastfeeding all the fucking time, it was invisible to society, but it was actually the most important thing for me to do, feed my baby, right? So I want you to do that. I want you to write down where your money goes, and I want you to celebrate, not where your money goes, where your time goes, where your energy goes, and I want you to celebrate that. Then I want you to find a book on self-worth, and I'm going to put one down, and I want you to start exploring that topic. I am creating a worksheet on self-worth that I'm happy to share with you, and if you're interested in doing that with me in some shape or form, then put it in the comments and I'll be in touch with you, or Emanuela, my assistant, will be in touch with you, and we'll make sure we get that worksheet to you, and we'll design a workshop or something around that. I'm speaking, or I'm sort of thinking out loud here. It just came to me that I created a worksheet on self-worth, and I've never actually shared it with anybody. But that's something that we could do together. But I want you to start exploring the concept of worth, and really, whenever you have to make a decision and it makes you feel uncomfortable, to really come into your mind and heart and see what's actually going on there. So to do a little bit of a self-analysis. And here's the tricky bit. I want you to talk with your partner. If you're in a relationship, I want you to talk with your partner and tell them, where you're at and where you wish you were at. And you can just leave it at that. No, you don't need to ask for anything. You don't need to make any changes. But maybe you want to plant the seed and say, this is what my relationship to money looks like right now, and this is actually what I'd like it to look like, and this is what I've learned, and I wanted to share it with you. Because we're part of a team here that lift each other up, right? Yes, so that's it. So let me go very quickly. You can tell going quickly in these videos is not my strength, but anyway, I want to do a quick review of everything that I've talked about. So I told you about how money is simply a transaction of our energy, how the way our energy is used as mothers, and sometimes as women, as mothers, even worse as mothers than as women, but as women and mothers, is not valued, is invisible, isn't remunerated, in our society today. I talked about materialist consumption and how the economy works to really keep us insecure and keep us feeling like we're not enough, so we buy more stuff. And this is especially true of the beauty industry for women, but it's also true for mothers, you know. Your kid will be so happy if you put them in this extracurricular activity, or if or even as far as like, if you do this parenting course or buy this parenting book, then you're gonna save everybody from heartache or make everybody happier or do your job better as a mom. We need to be really cautious about this kind of marketing and this kind of messaging that comes our way. And I have been like at the end of that, I have been told, like I have gone to loads of workshops and that I thought would be a quick win and make everything easier as a mom. Anyway, I digress yet again. The other point is that men have historically held the purse strings, and that we've been discouraged from holding the purse strings or really feel insecure around holding the purse strings. So having that conversation and finding a way that managing money and making decisions around money feels, one, a team effort and a team game, and two, an authentic reflection of your values, your embodied values that are not the patriarchy in disguise, your internalization of the patriarchy, but really come from your heart and soul. Yes, and then I invited you. I told you a little bit about my own story and how investing in yourself makes an enormous difference, and how we all need to do it, and we have to step out of this patterning that tells us we're not worth it. And then I invited you to write down every single thing that you do and to celebrate it. I invited you, irrespective, write it all down, irrespective of whether you're paid or non-paid up for it, right? Then I asked you to read up on your self-worth, so start doing some research around self-worth. Have a conversation with your partner, and if you are interested, then send me a private message, or you can put your name down. Just tell me in the comments that you're interested, and we can maybe find a way to do like a self-worth exercise together. And then the other thing I would really love for you to do is to share this with a friend, because I feel like this message doesn't get out there very much. So if you can share this video, in order to do that, you go to the inessencecoaching.com, my business page, and you can share it from there as a friend, or I'm going to pop it also on Instagram and you can tag friends in there. I'm also starting a YouTube channel, so you can, oh cool, Leandra, that'd be awesome. It'd be cool if we got a small group of people together and we could do the self-worth exercise together. I would love to do that. So spread the word and let's start talking about this, because it's really crazy the way we are refusing to spend and invest in ourselves just because we've got this internalized patriarchal messaging going on in here. Thank you everybody for coming. It's been such a pleasure. I need to go for a walk now. I'm all piped up. If you have any questions, then I will return to answer them, and you can, yay Jess, and you can, pop them, Instagram, Alex_in_essence, or in the Facebook page or in the Facebook group. You know where to find me. Lots of love. Bye, lovelies.